Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Grogan, and this is the assignment for Unit 3, Lesson 5 on JavaScript. Um, Lesson 4 dealt with shapes and randomization, in particular, the different shapes, still like the rectangles and the ellipses, and also the random number code. Um, Lesson 5 deals with variables, and variables are a very important part of JavaScript. Anytime that you play a game, like an online computer game or just a game on your phone app, right? Chances are that there are a lot of different variables that go on in a game. Um, and variables can be things like a score, the level, different characters. And it could be different levels, can mean a wide variety of different things. So variables are an important concept to JavaScript coding. Right? And a variable, the way how it's defined, it's a placeholder for a piece of information that can change. All right. There is some new code that does get introduced here, and it's on section 1 here. And there is, declaring and assigning a variable, or assigning a value to a variable and declaring a variable. We'll get to that in a little bit later. All right. But as I said, the key thing to take from this lesson is knowing what variables are, because you will see that term thrown around a lot going forward. And there are many examples of variables in computer apps in general, not just games, but just in regular apps as well. The assignment itself is sections 5 through 9. Right, I am going to kind of go through these, some of these with you. All right, in particular the first few sections, but most of this assignment, which is sections 5 through 9, is fairly easy. But there are a couple of things I do want to point out to you. All right. Section 2 has a video. I would recommend that you go through that. The video is only a couple minutes long. All right. And it kind of goes into how important variables are to in JavaScript apps. All right. So section 3, all right, I'll just quickly go through this one with you. Section 3, what that entails, all right, so on this program, the variable x position is used to store the x coordinate of the circle. And basically what you're going to do is run the program to see how it works. It also says here, change the number that's stored into the variable and run the code again. You'll notice here, and you see this on some of the early lessons here. You'll sometimes see a little link there. It says show me where. If you click on it, there you go. It says to change the number here. Now you're not going to change this. You are going to change this. All right. The x position variable is set to 50. Now you'll notice here on the program, you'll see that the variable is listed right at 50. Okay. Now keep in mind on an ellipse, all right, the coordinate is going to be right in the center of the ellipse. Okay. So that's why it's 50. Okay. And also notice that for the ellipse, the x coordinate is set for x position. Okay. So the variable x position is going to be the x coordinate. All right. Now, if I were to change this from 50 to 350, here's what happens. I reset it and I run it. Hey, circle's over here. Okay. If I change this from 350 to 200, circle shows up right there. Okay. Now keep in mind that this program, it runs the x and y coordinate goes from 0 to 400. All right. So if I were to, if I wanted to, I could set it for 415. Okay. But you'll notice that part of it will go right outside. You're not going to be able to see too much of the ellipse by doing that. Okay. All right. And that's how that works. All right. So, all right. Section 4. I'm not going to really go into that one. All right. You do see this a little bit in some of these lessons where they have you, some sections, they have you make a prediction. We're not going to worry about that. All right. The assignment itself is sections 5 through 9. All right. Section 7 just deals with, is a section that you do want to, there's no task that you need to do. However, you do want to read through it really quickly because it goes into a little more detail involving variables. All right. The creating variables, you have the variables. You have to call a variable. All right. And it's often one of the first things that you need to do in a program is to set your variables. We will get into that more starting in lesson 6, which probably won't be until next week. But it will, when you're calling a variable that is, because a lot of programs will have multiple variables in them, right? Oftentimes, the first thing that you do is when you're, programming on JavaScript is calling your variables, right? You can change the size of your variables, by adding in a, size code there. Okay. And you can use it, if you name a variable, and we will get into naming variables in a moment. Okay. You can use it as your X or Y coordinate on on any shape. Okay. All right. And some of these sections will go into a little bit of detail on how that works. Okay. So we go into section 5. All right. Section 5. All right. All right. Section 5 is where the assignment starts. What you want to do here on section 5 is that you see an ellipse here. Okay. Notice how it doesn't cover the whole program. Okay. What you want it to do is you want this here to look like that. All right. And so what you want to do is that you want to change. What you have to do is you have to change the value assigned to circle size so that the circle takes up the entire screen. Okay, so you notice here that the circle size is at 450. You're just going to make this number bigger. Okay, section 6. All right, what you're going to do on section 6, all right, is you're going to change the number of the petal size. That you have your petal size is set to 50. All right, and what you're going to do is you're going to change the number of size to petal size so that the red petals touch one another, that these 4 red petals touch one another. Try to find the size that makes the most sense, okay? Really, you don't have to fiddle around with this. All you have to do is just make this bigger, okay? That's all you need to do there. All right, section 8. Before I get into section 8, I'm going to quickly go through section 10, okay? A minute ago, I mentioned something about naming your variables. Okay, there are a couple of rules that come into naming variables, and these are very important. Okay, because they do come up later. Okay, there are several rules actually when you're changing labels. Labels cannot include spaces. Okay, so make sure that on any label that you name, it's one word, even if it looks, it sounds like 2 words. Don't leave any spaces between them. Okay. Labels cannot begin with a number. All right. Can't do that. It's the program won't read it right. So it cannot begin with a number. Be very careful with spelling. Spelling matters. If you name whatever you name a label, you want to make sure that when you're referring to that label in your program or referring to that variable in your program, you want to make sure that the spelling is correct. Okay. And also it's case sensitive. All right. So if you and that does come into play when you create a variable or you name a variable. If the first letter is capitalized, you want to make sure that when you refer to it in the program, when you refer to that variable, that the first letter is capitalized. For instance, okay. If not, then you wouldn't. Okay. All right. Labels with multiple words can be easier to read in camel case. Camel case looks basically the first letter of the first word would not be capitalized, but the second word would be capitalized to make it a little easier to read. You could also use underscores as well. All right. But it's important that you're consistent with it and that the spelling is correct. Okay. So when you go to section 8, all right, section 8, it has, there's actually a few mistakes here. All right. What you want to do, and one thing that you'll notice right away is that the code is not in Blockly. Okay. It's in regular JavaScript code. You'll also see these little red marks here, these little red blocks inside the workspace, that means that there's a mistake there. All right. And the code isn't running correctly because there's a mistake. Okay. Sometimes that mistake, the actual error is not on the line that the program reads it on. All right. So you got to be careful about that. All right. So what you're going to do on this section here is that you're going to try to figure out what problems with the variable names are causing the errors, correct the errors by picking new names, and basically the variable names are right here on line 6. Okay, refer to section 10, naming variables, to fix the problem here. There's a few problems with line 6. Okay, you're gonna have to change them. All right, and you're gonna and you're also gonna have to make changes up here. Okay, so like for instance, line 1, it says here variable size of circle. Okay, as I mentioned, all variables, it has to be, you can't have spaces there. So you're gonna have to get rid of the space here, get rid of the space here. They also, labels cannot begin with a number. So you're gonna have to get rid of the number 1 there. Okay, and it's also case sensitive, so that it's referred to down here. Okay, you want to make sure that it's listed, everything's spelled correctly over here. Works. All right. Sorry, I had a phone call in the middle of that. So anyways, like I said, once you get to the line 6, you want to make sure that you, whatever changes that you made up here on the first 3 lines, that those changes are reflected on this line. Okay. And the last section, section 9, all right, what that involves is you'll see a character here with 2 eyes, and you'll notice that each time you hit reset and run, the left eye changes in size, but the right eye stays the same. What you want to do is, if you look at the workspace, you'll see the random, you'll see the variable eye size with the random number code right after it. You scroll down here, and you'll see, if you go down to where the eyes are right here, and you'll see the eye size variable here and here. What you need to do is add this eye size variable. You need to put that here and here. Okay, make sure you spell it correctly. And then this will look like that. All right. And once you're done with that, with section 9, you're done with lesson 5. And as I said, next week we're going to be going into lesson 6. That one, the video for that's going to be a little bit longer because there's some sections that I'm going to have to kind of walk you through. All right.